So we're going to do some practice problems from the textbook, so let's take a look. The first one I want you to just watch and listen, and then I'll give you one to try. So it says, you conduct a science experiment on house mice. Your teacher asks you, what is the weight of a mouse? Is this a statistical question? So if your teacher asks you, how much do mice weigh? Or what is the weight of a mouse? I would assume that everyone in the class could give a different answer for that, depending on the size of the mice they're thinking of. So that would be yes, that it is a statistical question, because every student could give a different answer. It's not like everyone's going to say 5 grams. There could be different answers. Part B, you weigh some mice and record the weights in grams in the table below. Display the data in a dot plot. Identify any clusters, peaks, or gaps in the data. So I'll explain what that is in a second. So the first thing you want to do is find the smallest number and the biggest number. So I'm here looking here, I see an 18. I don't think if there's anything smaller than that. Nope. And now we want the largest number, which I believe is 28. So you would draw a number line from 18 to 28. So this one's already done for us. So 18 to 28, because it's the smallest number to the biggest. And now they drew their dots or their X's, whichever you prefer. So they put 2 dots over the 18, because if you look at the data, there's 2 18s. And then there's 3 dots over 19, because there's 3 19s, and so forth. Now they want us to identify clusters, peaks, or gaps. So clusters are where you see a whole bunch of dots together. So the cluster here would be from 18 grams to 22 grams, because that's where like pretty much all of the dots are. Gaps are if there's spaces that have no dots at all. So the gap would be between 23 and 27. So these 3 don't have any dots, so the gap is between, so not counting, but between 23 and 27. And then peaks would be which one has the most. So most people thought that a mouse would weigh 20 grams. So there's your peak. And that's it. So clusters is where most of the data is. Peaks is the thing with the highest amount. Gaps are anything that has no data. It says use the distribution of the data to answer the question. So the question was, what is the weight of a mouse? So if you wanted to use the distribution to answer that, you could say that most of the mice are between 18 and 22, but the majority of them weigh 20 grams. So you could say 20 grams would be the answer. Okay, so I'm going to give you one of these to try. So let's put this away for a second. All right, so you're going to try this one. So it says the table shows the weights of the students in a class. You ask, what is the weight of a student in the class? Is this a statistical question? So you have to figure out if people would say that everyone's the same weight or everyone's going to say a different weight. If everyone's going to say the same weight, it's not statistical. If everyone's going to say something different, then it is statistical. Then you want to do your dot plot. So you have to find the smallest number in the data and the biggest number and draw a number line with every single one from smallest to biggest. And then you're going to put a dot or an X over these numbers every time you see them. After you do that, I want you to identify clusters, peaks, or gaps. So clusters, again, is where most of the dots are. Peaks would be the one that has the highest amount of dots, or the most amount of dots or X's. And gaps are the spaces where there are no dots or X's. After, you want to answer the question, what is the weight of the student in the class? So you want to pick the one that has the most. So the peak pretty much answers that question. So I'm going to have you pause and try that one. This one is doing a dot plot already, so they already gave us the dot plot, and they want to see if we can answer questions about it. So it says you record the high temperature every day while at summer camp in August. Then you create the vertical dot plot. How many weeks were you at summer camp? So we want to figure out how many dots there are, because every dot represents a day, because you're recording the temperature every day. So I'm going to count the dots. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 25, 28. So if there's 28 days and there's 7 days in a week, so 28 divided by 7 means that they were there for 4 weeks. Okay, so 4 weeks should be the answer for that one. Okay, 28 divided by 7, 4 weeks. How can you collect this data? So what would you use to collect this type of data? You would use a thermometer. And your labels is going to be, or your units would be degrees. So, yep, you can collect this data with a thermometer and you're using degrees Fahrenheit. Write a statistical question that you can answer using this dot plot. So a question you could ask that's statistical could be, what is the temperature in August? Or what is the highest temperature in August? Because that would be a statistical question, because everyone could answer differently. And then you could use the dot plot to answer it. So if I were going to say what's the warmest day in August, I would probably say the one with the most dots. So about 86 degrees would be the warmest day in August. Okay? So I want you to see if you can use this dot plot to answer these questions. It says the dot plot shows the heights of 6th grade students in a gym class. How many students in the class? Count how many dots there are. How can you collect this data? So how do you measure people and what units are they using? Write a statistical question, so a question that there could be different answers for it that you could use this dot plot to answer. So pause and try this last one.